Welcome into Action Island, presented by FanDuel Super Wildcard Weekend Edition. I'm Megan Payton, joined alongside Tim Kolonowski, Anthony DeBundo, Chris Raybon. It is time to talk playoffs, and we are talking about the coldest game of the weekend. It's Chiefs Dolphins. The under is moving down in points and the temperature's moving down in points. So are the ticket prices. If you're new to Action Island, it's the place to be for parlays. You're not too late. We're going to build you a 3-leg same game parlay that you can go and bet on at the FanDuel Sportsbook after. Action Island is presented by FanDuel. Bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. This is for new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Bet $5, get $150 back in bonus bets. Great deal for playoff time. All right, guys, there's a lot of storylines in this one. The main one being the cold temperatures and how everyone's saying, I'm getting out of this. Let me go to Detroit. Maybe that game will be a little bit nicer temp there inside the dome. But regardless, these players are going to have to get out there. I'm interested to see how Tua and this Dolphins team that's used to playing in the Florida heat stacks up against the Kansas City team in some pretty cold temperatures. Tim, you're going to start us off with 2 legs that you're looking at for this game. So what do we have?
Yeah, my T-box here, Megan, and you mentioned it, the total dropping, the temperatures dropping. My first play here is the second half under 21.5. I locked in the under on the entire game at 44.5 earlier in the week, but since it's moved down and when I was preparing for the show, I'm like, I don't know if I like it still at 43.5 or 44. Let me look at both halves. And the second half under, when they ticked it down on the game total, they took it off of the first half total and it left the second half total still at 21.5. So you think about it, that's actually good news for us because both these teams, they're slow, especially in the second half. Kansas City, well, first off, they're 29th in points per game. We're talking about that. But when we talk about pace, Miami, 28 seconds per play, or they're 28th rather in seconds per play in the second half. Kansas City, 25th in seconds per play in the second half. So, when you look at this and you're parsing out which side of this do I want, you look at the first half, if we're scared away, right? First half, Miami, they're second in points per game in the first half. Kansas City, they're 6th in points per game for the first half. So by process of elimination, I get to the second half here, that under. We're getting 3 touchdowns and a hook. Let's book it.
I love it. And by this time, you'd imagine that the players are cold. They try to throw the ball a ton at the beginning. Now they're like, whoa, let's run the ball here. And you talk about the Dolphins. Man, they use so much pre-snap motion that you feel like the play's never going to go off. And so now throw you in to some cold weather, 21.5. I could see this number shrinking just a bit before kickoff. What's the second option, Tim, for this?
All right. I don't know if you've heard of him. Travis Kelce's boyfriend, over 5.5 receptions. Look, I know it seems square to be playing the, near your sure thing Hall of Fame tight end is over in a playoff game. That's going to be, a lot of bets on this one. I can't wait till we see the tweet that, a ton of tickets on Kelce, anytime touchdown. But look, I think that this has dipped low enough where it's worth a play. This Miami defense, they're not good versus the tight end. They're 30th in DVOA to that position, defending it. 7.6 passes per game to the tight end position. I mostly bring this up too as to ask my colleagues here and you as well, Megan, is the market low enough that we can finally take an over on Travis Kelce? We all know that the other Chiefs receivers have frying pans for hands. It's a playoff game. You got to go to old reliable 87 in red, over 5.5 receptions.
You'd have to imagine that this week in particular, it's all about Mahomes and Kelce. There's no way you're trusting any of those other pass catchers in a big-time playoff game. A buy low spot at 5.5. When it feels scary, that's normally when you got to double down on it. All right, 2 options here. We're going with either under 21.5 for the second half in a cold weather game, or we're going with T. Swift's boyfriend, Travis Kelce, over 5.5 receptions. DeBundo, Raybon, we got to vote. Where are we going? 3, 2, 1, present the bets. Look at that. In agreement on the first leg. That's always a solid start. Second half under 21.5. DeBundo, were you seeing this the same way as Tim? Going to be slow from start to finish?
Yeah, this NFL season, one of my favorite bets has been the Andy Reid second half unders. The market has struggled to adjust to them, even despite them going 15-2 this year, like you mentioned. It's just how slow and methodical Kansas City is and can be in this matchup. We've seen Miami's defense have some struggles when they've played, playoff caliber teams. And I think what that looks like in this game is Kansas City controlling the game, trying to bleed out the clock, maybe get that patented long drive and be very methodical. So I do like the second half under. I also trust Spags to make some second half adjustments with what McDaniel throws at him.
Yeah, Anthony,
for
me it was really, I just don't trust Mr. Swift. I mean, in that first matchup, Megan, they held him to a season low, 14 yards on 3 catches. And because they have Jalen Ramsey, you can put him on Rashee Rice, and you can focus all your defensive attention on Brackett and Kelsey. Now, he's great. Don't get me wrong. He could easily go over. But I think of those two bets, I rather, both of these teams kind of struggling a bit on offense in the cold weather. Remember, in that first matchup, Kansas City goes up big early. Then they get the fumble 6 from Tyreek Hill. They don't score in the last 40 minutes of that game. So I think that's why I'm going with that one.
It's kind of also just a good play when everyone's just looking at the game total under with the weather. Tim, I liked the angle and how you can still get it a little bit maybe at a better price, but still bet on that cold weather. So under 21.5, second half is the first play. Anthony DeBundo, where are we going for the second leg?
All right, so let's start with, you talking about Travis Kelce. We're talking about the big stars. Patrick Mahomes over 25.5 rushing yards. And I'm concerned about the Miami pass rush here, right? They lose Jalen Phillips. They lose Bradley Chubb. Now Van Ginkel's out. They're signing guys off the street, Justin Houston and Bruce Irvin, who are 34 and 37 years old.
They called Raybon, I think.
Yeah, Raybon off the bench for 10 snaps on third down. They don't have any way to get to him, and I think that's going to, the thing with the Chiefs, right? The receivers have not been creating separation enough, and it's led to Mahomes being kind of happy feet in the pocket, uncertain about the timing. And I think what that means in this playoff game is what they do in break glass in case of emergency, they run Mahomes. And in his playoff career, he's averaged 27 yards per game on the ground. Keep in mind, he had 2 games last year against Jacksonville and Cincinnati where he really couldn't run at all because of that ankle injury. So with a healthy Mahomes, I think they unleash him. We saw that in the Raiders game when they couldn't get anybody open. The offense was out of rhythm. He ended up with 59 rush yards playing, extending those drives. So I like Mahomes to go over his rush total in these big playoff games.
Yeah, can you imagine Patrick Mahomes not taking off and running? You mentioned the ankle. He's doing it all, injured in the playoffs last year. He can't help himself. He's got to run it. And on the Miami side of things, without Bradley Chubb, with a lot of injuries that they've been dealing with, it feels like a perfect spot to buy in on a rushing yard. And Patrick Mahomes, maybe their best weapon on the running side of things as well, aside from Isaiah Pacheco. What's the second option we're looking at, DeBundo?
So I'm going with Tua Tagovailoa under 233.5 pass yards. I'm concerned about the status of Miami's pass catchers. I'm not sure how healthy Jalen Waddle is right now. I'm not sure that Tyreek Hill's been at his best in the last month. It hasn't looked that way to me. And I do think the path to success for Miami here is on the ground, leading on Achane and Mostert. Kansas City's run defense is their weakest point. And I do expect the Chiefs to have more ball control because I don't really know what Fangio's answer is. We were just talking off air. Maybe Vic Fangio blitzes Kansas City more and tries to force more action, but I think Kansas City is going to be methodical and slow in this game and try to shorten it because of their offensive limitations and keep the ball out of the explosive Miami offense. And we actually saw Tua play in the cold last year. He had a pretty good game. They were scoring a lot, but they were in a negative game script in Buffalo, and he still only got to 234. It's much colder for this game, so I do think this is a little high, and I'm generally down on Tua relative to the market.
Yeah, it feels like a spot too to buy a little bit low on Tua. And yes, early in the year, we're talking about this MVP case. And it's such a different team. When we get to the place of week 18, now playoffs, injuries mean everything. And the Dolphins have unfortunately landed on the wrong side of the injury train. Devon Achane, luckily, he's kind of that one guy you're hoping is going to be taking over the running game. So maybe they're going to lean on him, and we're waiting to hear on Mostert and, of course, some of the pass catchers over in Miami. All right, Raybon, Tim, second leg up for grabs. We're either going with Tua under his passing yards or Patrick Mahomes over 25.5 rushing yards. So let's vote. The two stars of the game. Where are we going? Mahomes or Tua? Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes over 25.5 rushing yards. Raybon, what were you seeing in this?
Megan, we already know when it's playoff time, Mahomes is going to scoop.
Yeah.
He does this every year like clockwork, and that's even before you factor in, as Anthony started to talk about, I do think Vic Fangio is going to blitz Mahomes more because they did that last week with Josh Allen. They pressured Allen on almost half of his dropbacks, so it was effective. And in the first matchup against Mahomes, they actually blitzed him a lot more too. And he only averaged 5.5 yards an attempt, and that's unheard of. You usually can't get away with blitzing Mahomes. This year, teams have, but that's going to mean he takes off more. So it was an easy one for me because I'm not buying into this. Oh, I don't know, Waddle, Hill, are they healthy? Yeah, and then they put up 400 yards. I'm not falling for that one. So this was an easy one. Mahomes over for me.
Yeah, averaging over 27 yards rushing in the playoffs. We're factoring in the ankle last year. You can only imagine that's going to go up. What were your thoughts here, Tim?
Yeah, I considered it for one of my picks, and honestly, I was scared away because it seems too good to be true. It makes too much sense. The break glass in case of emergency, Dubundo put it well, and there might be a state of emergency with that weather. So I was like, it adds up. It makes too much sense. And even too, when you look at his postseason rushing numbers, we know that he likes to do it more in the playoffs, these bigger games. The ankle injury last year, he still wanted to run so badly. You always could see it in his play, like I'm ready to take off, but I don't really trust the ankle. So for the fact that I can get validation without making it one of my picks from you guys makes me feel better. And then with Tua, the under, I worry, like you said, Dubundo, about the Buffalo game, a trailing game script where he has to throw. That's my one kind of concern with that. And Raybon seems to be very, he's been very poignant and strong about how he's anti this whole, the receivers aren't going to play, whatever. So I trust him in saying that. And I was kind of thinking that too with talking off air. So yeah, that's how I land on Mahomes.
Hey, it's never a bad bet to go with Patrick Mahomes over something in the playoffs because he's going to give it his all and he knows what's on the line in this game. All right, two legs. We already on the way. Raybon, where are we looking for the third leg?
All right, so y'all know when the market starts saying, oh, man, can Miami do it? Can they play in cold weather? Can they overcome their injuries? What do? Buy low. I'm taking Miami +4, +4.5, whatever it is. I think anything over 3, Miami's the value. They're the better team if you just look at weighted DVOA overall. They're actually the slightly better team. Now, yes, losing 3 of your top edge rushers will hurt, but let's talk about can this Kansas City offense take advantage? Because since Kansas City's bye, they've lost more games than they've won in games Mahomes has started. They've only won 3 games. They've lost to 3 bottom 6 defenses. They've only beat Jake Browning, Bailey Zappi, and Aiden O'Connell once out of the 2 times. So this Kansas City team, just because they're facing a compromised Miami defense, doesn't mean they're just an automatic smash spot for them. Then you look at, okay, what's Kansas City's weakness on defense? They've been good, but 27th in DVOA against the run, 21st against running back passes. Who did you not have in that first matchup? Devon Achane. He's back now. Kansas City and Miami played a pretty even game that first time. Yes, Kansas City got up big first, but Miami outgained them, more yards per play, and the difference in the game was that fluky fumble 6 by Tyreek, or it would have been 14-14. So give me the Miami Dolphins with these wild card road dogs, 7 or less, hitting at above a 60% clip over the past 2 decades. I think Miami's the play.
Raybon, I got my Miami blue on for a reason, and it's not because I don't like that play. Miami +4.5. Everyone's talking down on Tua, saying there's no way they can do this. They're banged up. It's cold weather. And look, there's a lot of parts that could be true there, but I like the buy low spot, +4.5. All right, what's the second option for this third leg?
All right, so if we're a little scared of Miami, because I know everybody is, how about a Justin Watson 40-plus receiving yards at +225? So this one is one where when I look at how Miami matches up to Kansas City, you have Jalen Ramsey, right? So Rashee Rice is pretty much your only wide receiving threat on the Chiefs. So you could stick Ramsey on him. Then you focus on Kelsey. That's why I think they were able to limit him so much in that first matchup. I think you can kind of do similar things here. somebody else has to beat you besides just Isaiah Pacheco. He's obviously going to get his. I think Justin Watson's that guy. He's going to get single coverage on the outside. Xavier Howard is also out for Miami, so you're probably going to get like an Eli Apple or somebody like that. And Justin Watson, this is a number he's hit in 7 of his 15 games, excluding the last week of the season when a lot of people were resting. The playing time was all janky. So that implies you should have close to even money on each side of that bet. But we're getting plus 225. I think that's a really good number for Justin Watson, who he's their downfield threat. I know it's cold out, but I think the market's over-adjusting. I wouldn't bet any of his medians one way or the other, but I think he's a great bet for kind of a longer shot on his yardage and something he's done nearly half the time when he's been active. So give me Justin Watson, 40-plus receiving yards.
Raybon, are you tempting us with a boosted parlay at plus 225 on a solo bet? Okay, that actually is really crazy to think about because he has gone over it in 7 of 15 games. You would imagine that they would take some long shots, and he's been a more deep ball kind of receiver out there. So Justin Watson, alt line 40+. That's the second option for the third leg. Tim, Anthony, 2 options here. Justin Watson, 40+, or Miami to cover at plus 4.5. Let's vote. Can we agree, or do we have to coin flip? Watson. Oh, look at that.
I knew they would be scared.
3 for 3.
I knew they would be scared of Miami.
You guys are all on the same page. Hey, I still like the Miami, but Justin Watson, 40+, you can't help yourself, especially with the way that this is going to boost the odds. It feels like a great single play on its own, and then, of course, throw it into the parlay. Tim, I know you like a boosted odds. Was that what you were looking at?
Partly. Well, I actually did play Miami plus 4.5 because Raybon's on it. But honestly, I don't like it enough to put my name to it here with a note card.
Yeah.
I am afraid of all the things that Raybon brought up, all the things you brought up. I think that styles make fights, and I think that the style certainly plays into Kansas City's hands. You know, I don't know how you price losing that many defenders in a short time and playing a quarterback in Patrick Mahomes as dynamic as he is, as tough of a season as he's had. I still just can't get myself to not believe in Patrick Mahomes and not be anti-Miami cold. So,
but you played it.
But I played it because
okay.
Tim,
Just checking.
You got your blue on. You're looking like you're ready for a Miami beat. You definitely don't look like you're going to Kansas City this weekend.
No, God no. So yeah, that's why I'm on the Watson there. The 40+ yards. I like the boost. I like how we can have a kind of a reverse correlation here in terms of we're playing an under, but also 2 overs here as well. So hopefully that helps our odds as well. And I could look like a damn fool with this whole Miami thing because I'm half in, I'm half out. I don't really know what to do because I'm terrified.
Well, that's the best way. So then you can just take whichever side, and we're right either way. Tim and I think alike. We don't want to be held accountable for these bets. We'll put it on you, Raybon. Dabundo, are you on the Miami thing, or were you just saying, the Watson's too good to not take?
I think Raybon and I might have to watch this game in different rooms because I'm kidding, of course. But I laid Kansas City money line on the opener, and I do think the Chiefs are going to win this game. Hopefully they win by 3 or 4, so we can both cash our bets here. But we're in disagreement. I think the injuries are too much to overcome. Concerned about the spot with the 73 snaps for Miami's defense on a short week now on the road. It matters. It matters.
So many snaps of doing their job that they do every week.
Look. That adds up over the course of a season, and especially with the short rest, with KC getting the bye, essentially, I do think it's an advantage. So I laid the Chiefs, but like I said, we can find a nice little middle here with the Chiefs and the Dolphins, and everybody can be happy, and we'll hit our SGP in the same.
We all have our own agendas, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, all
I'm going to KC. I got the Montclair.
Raybon's ready to go, but I need a watch party between Chris Raybon and Anthony Dabundo, and me and Tim can just be in the back rooting for whoever because we're on both sides here.
Fence sitting.
Yeah, split me.
All right, we got to go through our 3-leg same game parlay. The great thing about kind of having a few different ways to look at this is it's really going to help get those odds up. You talk about that, Tim, when you're not necessarily, it's not that it's not correlated, but it's just that you're targeting it from a couple different angles. That helps when you're doing a same game parlay. So here's our 3-leg same game parlay for the coldest game of the weekend. We're going with the second half under 21.5, and then we're going to take Patrick Mahomes to do what Mahomes does. That's use his legs. Over 25.5 rushing yards as our second leg. And then an alt line of 40+ receiving yards for Justin Watson. You parlay this all together on the FanDuel Sportsbook. You're at plus 1,068. Cash it on a Saturday night. We're watching this game on Peacock, I believe. It's going to be a fun one. We are ready to go. How are we feeling about this, guys?
I like it.
We're gonna be strutting our feathers on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's tough when we're all rooting for different things. I think because we're all together, it's going to be one of those things of I told you so, you idiot, you didn't take my bet, you're square, you're this, you're that. A lot of name calling, but hey, quadruple digits here. I mean, come on, it's a good shot for a little Saturday night wild card weekend.
Hey, full play, all the units, kidding, but this is going to be a fun one for the parlay. Raybon, Anthony DeBundo, Tim Kalinowski, we appreciate it. Good luck this weekend. Super wild card. Go cash some tickets. We'll see you here next time on Action Island.